Welcome back. Welcome back to Marantz Rantz. Plenty of good information, a little bit of motivation, a whole lot of truth, no financial advice. I was on a Spaces call last night, and as I'm listening to it, I wasn't speaking. I was listening. I was DMing, and I was going back and forth with Mario and his crew and his team, and we were trying to shed some light because SBF was on live. I wanted to ask the questions about the bankruptcy because he kept saying how he's going to try to make everybody whole, and I was just like, that's not true. Like, they're not even trying to pay back what they owe. But as you guys know, we have a team here that's developed, that's going through and doing the homework. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't give out people's identities and do it that way. But we have a guy on staff who knows the law, who knows what's going on. And we have public access information to the docket. And he's gone through it, tooth and comb and done everything. I do not do it justice when I talk about it. So I have the individual on the line right now. I'm going to make it very simple for everyone, guys. This is our information to share. Yes, when you get it, understand what he's saying in detail. But of course, I don't hold anyone to what they're saying as in to say, hey, this is fact, right? He's giving you his opinion on it. We're going to leave it there. And that's what we're going to have. So let's go for it really quick. My man, Lindureal, how you doing, sir? Welcome back to the chat. Welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you.
Doing well, Marantz. How about yourself today?
I'm doing good. I woke up. I was reading some headlines, and then I'm sending Mario some DMs. I was telling Mario, I was like, man, you guys know that they're not really trying to pay back anybody. So can you explain what you've seen on the docket so far and break it down? I mean, as far as them not having dip financing and then moving forward and kicking the can down the road, how this is really happening for FTX and BlockFi as a whole. I believe they're doing it differently because from what I read, BlockFi actually gave out some information, but not FTX. Am I getting that correct?
Yeah. So let's take a step back real quick.
Sure.
So when a company files for Chapter 11, they are saying that they're not able to pay their assets, their liabilities with the assets that they have on hand. And so that requires somebody to come in and finance that bankruptcy. And it gives them a tool. It's a special tool only available to debtors in a Chapter 11 called DIP financing. Debtor in possession is what that stands for. And what that does is it allows a secured lender that has priority above everybody else in the bankruptcy to come in and say, hey, we'll give you this money. You can operate your business in the normal course, work your restructuring plan, and then, we'll come in and kind of clean up at the end. But what you've seen, or what you can see in these cases, and I would encourage anybody to go out to Kroll Restructuring Administration, who's the claims and noticing agent for these bankruptcies, and we can talk about what that is in just here in a minute. You can go out there and you can get free copies of the dockets. I've checked the court docket versus what they have, and they're very quick about updating. You can go out there and you can get all this information that we're going to go through on your own. But what you'll see is neither of these debtors at this point in their bankruptcy have filed for DIP financing. And that would typically happen with what's called the first day motions that get put out there.
Awesome. So first day motions, what I was reading, and this is all from the literature that you sent me. I became a bankruptcy lawyer last night, overnight, but no, not hardly. I see that usually, and I'm correct me if I'm wrong, they actually have the time to just be more transparent. Is this correct? Like, this is the whole notion of filing for bankruptcy. You have to tell everyone, this is how much money we have, this is who it's owed to, and this is why we can't make our payments. Is that correct?
Yeah, especially with a publicly traded company where there's securities involved. The bankruptcy court wants to be as transparent as possible because there could be big entities that are involved. There could be creditors that don't know their creditors. I mean, you have notification that's published in newspapers still. All these people get notified that are a part of the bankruptcy because if there are any claims out there that aren't known, because Lord knows the books on these companies are probably, we know FTX is bad because the CEO of the company has come in and said that it's worse than anything that he saw in Enron.
Right.
But if there are other creditors out there that they don't know about, they want to make sure that everybody has, the information and can get their just whatever they're owed.
Well, I think the biggest difference on the first day motions is like BlockFi's trying to tell you that they have the ability to sustain business. Like they could still run their business as is. And FTX has not done that. Is that what I'm reading? Is that how I'm reading it right?
Well, FTX is continuing in the ordinary course, but they don't have quite the same level of, I guess, client involvement that BlockFi does in terms of, BlockFi still has non-custodial wallets out there. They argued in court in the first day hearing that these wallets assets are not part of the bankruptcy estate, should not be included, and they wanted to go ahead and motion to open those up for people to withdraw as soon as possible. That hasn't passed yet, but that would be a defining difference for sure.
Well, that's promising. That's the only way I can see that. But other than that, just to keep kicking the can down the road. So as we kick it down, I read, and I know you gave me this information earlier this month, was that they were pushing back until the 9th or the 11th of January to actually give their schedule of assets and finances. And in addition to that is the SOFA that you taught me so well. And that's going to be the statement of financial affairs. So they've actually pushed that back to the second hearing, which is on the 9th. This is just going to prolong through Christmas time for another week. So when is all this really going to hit the market itself? Like, these guys are never going to file a true reorganization, as from what I can see, because they don't even have the DIP financing. They don't have a plan. That I think it's going to go to that Chapter 7 that we've talked about, where they just liquidate. Is that what you're seeing? I mean, in your experience?
Well, it's very interesting. I contacted the noticing agent and the court yesterday to see if, just maybe I was missing something or, didn't have my mind wrapped around it correctly. Both of them did confirm that there's no DIP financing. And the question that I asked both of them was, how long is it going to take for this to convert to a 7?
Right.
And nobody would give me an answer.
Well, that's crazy.
There's the opportunity still for a financier to come in and, pick this up and run with it. But what you have to ask yourself is, in the environment that we're in currently, right, who would want to go up and pick up this bag?
Well, so when you finance this and you say, okay, we're going to facilitate funds to people, like, the first ones to get paid are whom? Like, the secured lenders, I would assume. Like, in our case, it would always be like senior notes get paid first. But at what point do the people, the actual investors in FTX, the exchange, when do they get paid? Are they like last in line?
Yes. So the DIP lender would get paid first. Then any sort of admin expenses, that would be like your noticing agent, your attorneys, they're going to get their cut. Then you have your secured creditors. That would be, if you have any tax claims or anything like that, or in FTX's case, or not FTX, it's BlockFi that has the SEC claim on their top 50.
Right, I saw that.
Those would be things that are paid first. Then you have priority claims. Everything else, you have general unsecured creditors, which is where most of these things would fall.
The general unsecured creditors, aka GUCs. Got it. I wrote that
Correct.
down. But the perfected securities would be paid within that time frame. So just so people are aware, if people are listening, what's going on right now, and just so you guys know, so the whole team's all on board, as we read through it, and as we see the doc, and as we read it, all you basically see is this: they have done the dance. They basically did all the how can I put it? The charade of, hey, we filed for bankruptcy, but they have done nothing to actually facilitate that bankruptcy. Am I correct on that?
Well, they filed motions as if they're going to continue. So, like, they filed a critical vendors motion, and this would be, what you would put out there that forces your vendors to continue to do business with you and says, hey, we'll pay you. We promise. Yeah. You get priority. We'll pay you in the ordinary course. Everything else that's pre-petition, however, that's locked up in the bankruptcy. But they haven't filed utilities motions. Well, actually, BlockFi did. FTX didn't. So that would be something that you would send to your utility vendors to say, hey, we need to keep the lights on. Right. And there's a stark difference in listening to the hearing for BlockFi and the hearing for FTX. And both of these are out there. I'm actually kind of interested to put this out there. So if you go and look on the docket, you can pull the first day hearing off of the docket, and it's actually in the PDF, and you go into the attachments and you can pull the MP3 and you can listen to both the hearings. They're both about 2 hours long or so. But the stark contrast was FTX, they were not wanting to put any information out there. BlockFi was pretty effusive about the information that they were wanting to put out there. They were very adamant that, hey, our founding people are still here. Nobody's run away. We were trying to do this the right way. We weren't commingling funds. We weren't, taking stuff out of people's wallets and lending it.
Right. They're one-to-one on assets. Yeah.
Right. I mean, they were trying to really show that they were doing it the right way. Now, as far as oh bloody hell, lost my train of thought.
As far as FTX, I believe their creditors are sealed. That's correct.
Yeah, they're actually, in both cases, they filed an interim order to have the creditors sealed, supposedly for the protection of the people involved. This is abnormal. You see it sometimes in things like healthcare cases, like where there's HIPAA or something like that. You'd see patient information, right, redacted. But this is wholesale across the board. Doesn't matter if it's institution or anything like that. The U.S. trustee in both cases, in both jurisdictions, argued, hey, there's kind of an issue here, right? Because we want to balance this between, of course, we want to protect the interests, but we also want to protect the interest of any creditors that we don't know about. And we want to protect the interest of the creditors that we do know about, because if there are big players involved, they need to know where that money is.
What if it's the government? I mean, I know I'm just speaking out loud. What if it's like some Democrat or individual? Like, could they be protecting people's names at this point? I mean, that's just the way I see it. I'm always looking at the deeper side of things, but
yeah, I mean, that's a theory. If you look at the top creditor, the top retail creditor, I think in BlockFi is almost $50 million. So yeah, I mean, it could be protecting people's names for sure.
Yeah, I got it. Well, I want to thank you for the update first. I appreciate you, Lind, as always, being part of the team, being part of the moderator team. You guys know you're very diverse. You all come from different backgrounds and great information. I know people were trying to vet the information yesterday, your background, where you come, and I refuse to give you up type deal, because it's nobody's business. Just know that this is public information and it's access information. And if you read it, then you'll understand what he's saying. What we did have is we had dialogue with the noticing agent and via text and messaging, and they went ahead and said there was no DIP financer yet for either one, or that it would be updated on the docket and in public when it does happen. But I know you're checking in on it, so I appreciate that, and I want to keep you on it. I want to keep you doing what you do best, and this is your expertise. So run with it and let me know if anything comes down the pipe. Let the whole crew know, because we want to know what's the outcome of it, because I think the public should know what they're hiding. And the way SBF came on yesterday and did multiple interviews and was talking like he's willing to make people whole and try to give them back their money, it was driving me crazy, because you and I had just had a conversation how that's not happening. And that's not the plan as of today, as of what you see. So I just wanted to tell you, thank you so much for coming out and enlightening the rest of us and educating us. Obviously, we don't know everything. I'm not a lawyer. God knows I'm not. But I appreciate you. And hey, your schooling's doing some work here.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Happy to help in any way that I can. And the one thing that I would say is, and this is kind of something I've been kicking around in my head since they filed, was, obviously they're going to go and have this hearing in front of Congress, and you have everybody being all buddy with SBF, and he's on this apology tour and all that sort of stuff. They may be the only ones who can pick up the bag.
Okay.
It's, I'm not saying that is going to happen, but it makes a lot of sense.
Well, if it's, a $32 billion valuation on a company based off of a fake, a propped up transaction back and forth from the other company that they own, there's just a lot. There's just a lot to look at, and a lot of, it's a big web to untangle. So I wonder where it really leads, but it's fascinating to watch. And I just want to say thank you for everything.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thank you, Lindureal. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to get back to the show, but I just want to have that info out there for you. Shout out to Mario and Chet, the guys who run. Apparently, they think they're the only ones who investigate this stuff, but you're not. There's a whole crew out here, and Lindureal's one of them. We've been talking about FTX and what's happening with BlockFi for a while now, since it got announced at the beginning of this month, and now we're in a new month, and we're going to tell you guys the same thing. Stay the hell away from crypto. That's what I'm saying. I don't know about anybody else. But thanks again, Lindureal. I appreciate you, brother. and I'll see you around. Peace.